Hey all. So I'm not yet able to stream the actual combat portions of the game, but from playing around I think I'm going to be able to at least record videos for crafting, which may sound really boring, but actually Final Fantasy has one of the best crafting systems I have seen in an MMO. I'd say maybe Star Wars Galaxies rivals it, just because there was so much depth to that system, but this is much more accessible, so it's kind of hard to compare those two. Anyways, the purpose of this video is actually going to be to start a series. I've decided I'm going to actually do a little series on the, I guess, optimal way to start out your crafting, and the best income you're going to be able to get for the early game by far. So I'm just starting off with a video here to cover the basics. I'm going to assume you generally know the terminology. For example, if you don't know what control does for your crafting, you don't know what craftsmanship does, then that's going to be something I'm going to trust you'll be able to research on your own when you hear the terms, just because it's not going to be worth people's time to really have me go into depth on how those work. But as you can see here, I've got my classes up, and I've done the ADD method of leveling. I'm trying it all. Arcanist I'm excited to try, but I've been so busy with some of the other stuff still. But the important thing is I've really dug into the crafting side of it, and this is more just to show that, okay, yep, I have definitely given all of these a try. I'm not just BSing here. With the opening up with crafting and potentially some gathering, you're looking at potentially 5 to 10 to maybe even 20 times your rate of income compared to just leveling up. Now, that's not to say if you just go straight 1 to 50 with another class to 15, you won't make more. I'm sure you will. But the real kicker here is if you intend to get a crafting skill anyways, crafting class anyways, it's going to be much better off to go this route, because you're going to be leveling up something you'll be using anyways, and that's going to also support your Disciples of War, Disciples of Magic. Alright, so first and foremost, as I mentioned, this first segment's going to be the basic entry-level stuff. This is going to be what order should you get these in. You don't necessarily have to get all the ones I got. I did it more just to get a good overview of what everything does and how it works. But I'll list them in order of kind of what order you should get them, and also some kind of quick tips as to how to start monetizing your investment. So first off, I would say by far your best way to start is going to be either with Miner or Weaver. And that's up to your preference. If you have the patience for Miner, I would jump into that first just for a little bit. The reason for that is because in Central Thanalon, you're going to be able to mine right out the gate lightning shards. And just to give an idea, right now on my server, they're going for about 50 gil each. And considering how little time it takes to mine a lightning shard, you're looking at huge income. I mean, at the time you're able to grab Miner, you're looking at probably 50 times the income you would have gotten from combat. So you won't yet have access to the auction house, but no one's going to pass up the deal if you go in and you post 200 or 300 lightning shards in a shout for 10 to 20% off the auction house price, because they're saving some tax and you're getting an easy sale. The other option is you're going to go into Weaver anyways, so you may just want to hold on to those lightning shards, because those lightning shards, while already very valuable, are going to actually increase in value when you turn them into crafting gear, either of your own or to sell. So then Weaver, that's the big one to start with. The reason for that is because a lot of your gear is going to come from Weaver. This is just your starting point. We can look at what I've got here, and 1, 2, 3, that one's not, that one is, 4 slots right there just came from Weaver. That's huge. Now Goldsmith is a big one as well, but a lot of the Goldsmith slots are much later, and so you won't really have access to them. For example, Brass Ring of Crafting, that's great. Required level 18. No, that's out of the question. You won't have any crafting rings for quite some time. So all your starting gear really is going to come from Weaver, Leatherworking, and Carpenter. There we go. I wanted woodworking for some reason. So given that 4 out of those 6 are coming from Weaver, there's your choice. So that's a pretty straightforward decision. It's just going to bolster your ability to craft moving forward. Also, the big thing there is there's some repeatable quests that Weaver does particularly well, and I'm going to talk about those here in actually just a sec. So we're going to actually go ahead and jump into how this works once you get to a certain point. Now, I'm Later on I'll talk about the methods. In another video I'll talk about the methods of crafting, but I'm just going to assume when you first level Weaver, you're going to learn this on your own and figure out what works best, and that's fine. The important thing, and the reason you're starting off with this, is A, because you're going to be able to set up your other crafting classes to build up well, but then also you're going to have the ability to jump into this, whatever, I can't pronounce it, it sounds French, but I think Square just likes making things up. So you've got your trade craft, and that's where you're going to go with this. You get an allowance of these every day, and the thing that's really tricky about that is if you've got an allowance of them and they're so good, how do you make the most out of them? And that's actually going to start by these repeatables. Now every class has repeatables, but we're already starting with Weaver for good reason. Pass over to other classes, so we might as well do the repeatable for Weaver to build up some money. So what's going to happen here is you're going to get this heading below the belt, and it's saying, okay, free cotton breeches of crafting, no big deal, and tons of experience, tons of gold. Now here's where this gets pretty cool. If you're crafting high quality, which you generally want to always be crafting high quality, you're going to get triple the reward on this. Now this is where it gets really cool. Once you complete it, you're going to get the opportunity to turn in more. And you're going to get that opportunity 2 more times. So you technically, for one allowance, that's this total down here, you're going to get a grand total of 9 times the listed reward. So that's pretty good. That means every day when you get those allowances, and actually I think it's every 8 hours, but you get the idea, you're going to be able to just knock those out, turn them in, instant experience, instant gold, levels you up extremely quickly. Once you've gotten yourself to the point that you're confident you're going to be able to craft all of your entry-level stuff with absolutely no risk of it not being high quality, that's when you'll go ahead and knock that out. And that's when you're going to move on to getting your supporting skills, because I mentioned that this is such a cool crafting system, and part of that is that you've got skills from all of the other crafting classes that are going to allow you to actually augment your existing crafting. So that's something you're going to want to go ahead and make sure to capitalize on. How deep you go into this is up to you. I grabbed them all just for the fun of it, but you might only grab 2 or 3, so that's where you're going to prioritize them. So this is mostly just in my opinion, but I feel like this is pretty well practiced. I've spent a lot of time kind of digging into this, so I would recommend following this, but if you have any different ideas of the optimal way to do this, feel free to post it in the comments. The first one you're going to want to get is going to be Culinarian. It's nice because you're going to get some food to help bolster your crafting. But the big thing here is Hasty Touch. That is a 0 CP improvement. And in a nutshell, what that's doing is, for what typically causes this resource, CP, you're able to do it for free and improve the quality of the item, but it has a low success rate, only 50%. You can bolster that with a number of skills, and we're going to talk about that another time, but the important thing is that's really, really good, especially from levels 1 to level 5 when you don't yet have anything that actually improves the quality of your items. You get experience based on the quality rating that you got the item up to before finishing the crafting attempt. So from level 1 to level 5, you're significantly increasing your leveling speed, and you're also occasionally cranking out some high quality items that you can go ahead and turn around and sell for a huge turnaround. Alright, so that's pretty straightforward as to why it's so good. Next, this is a really close second. It's going to be leatherworking. You're going to be able to get 1 more slot in your crafting gear via the belt. You're also occasionally going to get some gloves that fill in some gaps in the Weaver crafting. But most importantly, you're getting Waste Not. This is amazing. The big weakness with spamming out your Hasty Touch is you're really dwindling that durability on the items quickly, because you're only getting a 50% success rate. So you're needing almost twice as many versus some of the later level touch skills, but you're getting it for free. So Waste Not helps with that. Very inexpensive ability, reduces your durability loss by 50%. So that's great, and when we compare that to some of the other abilities that help the durability, you're getting a huge turnaround on that. So you're getting, for example, restores item durability by 30 for 92 versus 50% for only 56. So it's much more economic as long as you use it, as long as you make sure you're actually using skills that reduce durability each time this is going to tick down. So in between you want to be using your other skills, and I'll talk a lot about that in another video. So after that, then things get a little bit muddier. You can start playing around with it a bit. Those are the big ones. Except for maybe the next one, it's really up to your style. So after that, you're going to want rumination. And actually, I'm having a brain fart. Oh yeah, carpentry. Rumination. This one's huge as well. And the reason for that is because it takes a skill that's so-so, that is inner quiet, and makes it amazing. So inner quiet already is not bad. It's going to give you a gradually higher improvement rate per success. And that's pretty cool, but the problem is it's got to reach a point that it paid for its CP cost of 18. Otherwise, you would have been better off just doing a light touch. Now, that does synergize well with hasty touch, since you've already got a skill that's going to keep your CP cost 0. You're basically just paying for either the mend or the waste not to keep your item sustained. But it really doesn't get good until you get rumination. And this is the point when you actually cash in that inner quiet, and the number of successes you've had will recover your CP by a proportional amount. And so you can find you're about to break your item, you hit 100% quality, you're kicking ass, at least as much as you can kick ass in crafting. I gotta say, crafting in this is that good. And you pop your rumination, it puts you just over 92, you're able to master's mend and finish it. And you want to start to plan that out to where you know that's going to occur. And that's where rumination gives you so much flexibility. It can mean the difference between consistently hitting 20% quality and consistently hitting 80 to 100% quality at the exact same level. So I can't stress enough how good that is, but the reason I put it at third is because number one, it's completely useless until you've unlocked inner quiet. Number two, it's almost entirely dependent on hasty touch. It's still pretty good with some of the others, but hasty touch is what makes it OP. I mean, you can actually, if you get pretty lucky, you can have an infinite loop where you generate enough CP to heal the item and then go ahead and bring it back down again. But that's all entirely up to luck. Alright, so then after that, it starts to become much more up to your discretion, and even rumination and tricks of the trade are kind of up to your preference. But I personally like rumination better. Alchemist for tricks of the trade. So if we go to Alchemist, we're going to be able to pull that in. Just a flat 20 CP whenever you've got an item condition of good. The downside of that is you're giving up the chance to improve your item under good conditions, which is a pretty big deal. But I still like it a lot, especially if you don't have any of your timed abilities. You don't have waste not on, you don't have steady hand on. Again, not really talking about what those do, you can always just look them up. Only talking about the big ones that you get from other classes. So pretty good, definitely synergizes well with rumination, so that's where I would say if you're going to go out to 4 additional classes, this is where it gets really strong. After that, you start to get into the duds. They seem good when you first get them, but when you compare them with so many other things you have available, they're just not that great. So next we get into manipulation, which is a subtle improvement over our healing whatever. Master's Mend, there we go. Words. So manipulation, you're getting 4 less CP cost. You're also getting a over time rather than all at once, which has its benefits and drawbacks. The benefit is you're going to be able to pop it at 30 out of 30, 40 out of 40, I guess it would be. So those low durability items are going to be very, very easy to maintain. The downside is if you pop it at 10 and then decide to go ahead and complete the item, it's going to break because it loses its durability before getting it back. And I'm so CD about those guys, I really want to block them, but I won't. Anyways, so that's pretty good. It does, again, have a little bit of redundancy. Technically, if you're really working this well enough that it's consistently active, you're actually going to almost line up with Waste Not in terms of efficiency, but it's just not quite there. Alright, so next we get down to, I'm actually undecided on whether I like this one or not. It's fun. Rapid Synthesis from Armorsmith. And I put it this much higher because the rest of them get borderline useless. But what it's basically doing is it's giving you a ridiculous efficiency on completion for only a 50% success rate. And you're going to be able to go ahead and put on Steady Hand to improve that, get it up to 70%. I still don't like those odds. It's kind of not so good. But once you get to a higher level, this is pretty good. I'm finding my Weaver actually does benefit from it because what I can do is I can push that improvement that much further and know that I just have to hit one successive 70% roll to completely finish the item in what would have taken 3 or 4 attempts previously. So that's kind of cool, but again, it's just so inconsistent. After that, we get to Ingenuity, which I'm sure someone's going to find an interesting way to use. It's almost like playing Magic cards and you've got that sleeper card that no one's figured out, but everyone knows it has potential. I've toyed with it a bit. I'm finding the point that you unlock the recipe is just low enough that this doesn't feel like it's worth it at 24 CP. Basically what it's doing is it's taken the recipe level, and let's say you are level 15 and you unlocked your level 20 recipe, it's going to bump it down to level 15 for the purposes of determining what you gain from improvements and actual crafting attempts. So that's pretty cool. It's just not really giving you anything for your investment compared to even just steady hand. So yeah, I don't know. And it only lasts for 5 attempts. If it was the entire crafting process, which some can be 20 to 30 steps depending on your method, then that would be amazing. But I think that does need a little bit of balancing before I pull it out of the useless category. And then lastly, we have the one we already started with, which is actually pretty good, especially when you're brand new. And I actually can't pull it up on this tab because it's already there, but it's going to be Careful Synthesis. And what you're doing is you're losing 10% efficiency for 10% success rate. And that's probably sounding a little weird. It's like, well, that's just an even trade, but it's not. When you think about what 100% efficiency gives you versus 90% success rate, you're getting, yeah, a little bit more improvement, but unless you're hitting a break point, like unless you're making the difference between 3 attempts and 2 to complete it, it's not going to be a loss when you move over to Careful Synthesis. If you're still on 2 attempts, but you've now gained 100% success rate, you've just now made your rotation, if you will. It's kind of weird to talk about crafting in a rotation, but that's really what it is. You've just made it that much more stable, and so you're actually significantly improving your efficiency over a long enough period of time with Careful Synthesis, which is another reason why Weaver's a great starter, because Careful Synthesis is really strong when you only have 1 or 2 crafting professions. Later on, once you start getting all these cool tricks up your sleeve, you're going to find ways to just make sure you've got Steady Hand already active when you hit a synthesis. And then, obviously, Careful Synthesis doesn't benefit from being at 120% success rate. So, early on, super, super strong. Later on, you use it less and less, but it's still nice to have just as your fallback if you find you botched up your rotation in some way and you're broke and don't want to risk losing the item. So, that's it for that. I hope this helps. It's just a kind of a quick rundown of the order I would recommend getting these things in. Obviously, feel free to play around with it and find a better method. It's up to you. But the important thing about all this is going to set you up to be freaking rich. Generally, what I find is I'm going to take anything that I'm able to make from my Weaver skills, and I'm going to be able to at least get 4 times my investment, and that's if I'm buying my materials. If I'm going out and mining my lightning shards, I always want to call them wind shards because I don't know why purple makes me think of wind. I don't know. Anyways, I'm going to typically go in and I'm going to say, okay, Cotton Shepherd's Tunic, that's amazing. Super cheap to make. Undyed cotton cloth, cotton yarn, whatever. I can just spam out those on quick synthesis at this point. But the important thing is it actually has the highest craftsmanship, control, gathering, and perception for its level, from what I can tell at least, of anything you're going to find. And so what that means is anyone who's going both gathering and crafting, they're going to love it. Now, there's a few others you're going to do like that you just pop it on the auction house and you make a ton of money. But generally speaking, you're going to have to really experiment with the market. I'm only looking at one specific market, and even the one I'm on fluctuates. One day, I might find that people are picking up a lot of gathering, and so where the initiate slops pretty good. The next day, I'm only getting like a double return on my investment, so that's not as good when I'm comparing it with some of the other things I could be making. The other thing, though, that's going to be really reliable, especially as you're leveling up these new professions, I keep on calling them professions, classes, is you want to actually farm materia out of them. So the other reason you're going to need a ton of lightning shards is you want to spam out these level 1 through 5 items, and you're just going to keep spamming out high quality 1 through 5 items so they're all viable while you're leveling your crafting. And then what you do is you get 1 to 100% spirit bond, you turn it into materia. Wash, rinse, repeat over and over and over and over. You have a 2 out of 3 chance of getting a materia that's extremely valuable. The CP one's kind of garbage, not worth too much. But at least on my server right now, both the craftsmanship and control ones, both going anywhere from about 1,500 to 2,000. And considering that's for an item you would have thrown away, or you would have just kept wasting that potential spirit bond gain, that's pretty freaking cool. So that's the other big thing that Weaver's providing you, is you're going to have a lot of opportunities to cash in that spirit bond for 1,500 to 2,000 gil 2 out of 3 times. Okay, I've already covered a lot of content, especially since this was meant to be for newbies who have only just looked up some of the terminology. Let me know in the comments how I can make this better. I'm not exactly used to doing anything but StarCraft, so I noticed my first video was full of ums. Trying to fix that just because I noticed if there's less going on, like in this kind of game, it's more just kind of talking over methodology rather than StarCraft, where there's a lot of things blowing up and a lot of high micro situations to talk about. So let me know what I can do better, because this is definitely a learning experience for me. Other than that, that'll be it. To anyone watching my StarCraft, my YouTube, and wishing there was StarCraft, I apologize. This game is just so freaking amazing. But I will definitely be getting back into StarCraft, probably at least tomorrow. So, okay. That'll be that for now. There will be another video coming up next. We're going to get into some of the rotations you want to use. I'm just going to call them rotations. If anyone has a better term for them, tell me. Otherwise, they're freaking rotations. Okay, so we're going to get into some of the rotations you can use to really optimize your crafting, because our goal is either 100% quality or on certain items, 80+% quality with very quick crafting speed. So I'll talk in depth in the next video on how that works, so that you can take what might be a so-so efficiency, maybe half of your items are high quality and therefore sellable, to 95 to 100% of your items are high quality. Okay, thanks a bunch for watching. Had to do it. I'll even just let this keep recording so you guys can see just how freaking OCD I am about these. I remembered that entire time that I need to block that guy. Alright, see you guys.